Hello. What time is it? 10. All right, let's get started. Oh my god. Okay. So I'm reading right now about entertainment. Amusing Ourselves to Death by Neil Postman. There was a sentence. So, I think I was reading this before. Yeah, this one. Every medium of communication has resonance, for resonance is metaphor, writ large. Whatever the whatever the original and limited context of its use may have been, a medium has the power to fly far beyond that context into new and unexpected ones, because of the way it directs us to organize our minds and integrate our experience of the world. It imposes itself on our consciousness and social institutions in myriad forms. That's an interesting take. So this is an interesting statement. Um, it's about. Actually, I'll just read it to you guys. First, can you comment on this assumption that to achieve, for example, mathematical greatness, one might need to sacrifice his or her sanity? Second, the G.K. Chesterton quote you cite, poets do not go mad, but chess players do, echoes something my evolution professor said at University of Illinois, where your dad taught. Now, the following is very interesting because um, my I originally had this kind of thought. It was about having a sine wave of emotions. So in a typical in a typical y and x graph, you would have the sine wave, right? You would have the up and down thing. So we can imagine the y axis to have to be what do you call it? To be the happiness side at the top and then the sadness side at the bottom, or vice versa. Doesn't matter. But um, the x axis essentially just separates the y axis in half. Now, and the x axis also acts as that balance. The closer you are, the closer the sine wave is to the x axis, the better your sanity will be, so to speak. So the sine wave, what was it? Oh my god, was it the amplitude? I forget. This was all so long ago. But let's just say the highest point, or the lowest point, are fairly low for a person, right? It can be fairly low or it can be fairly high. Obviously, the latter would be um, uh, more. It would be more prone to uh, dangers. It could be mania, or it could be depression. And the higher the let's just say I'm not gonna say its amplitude because I actually don't know. Let's say the highest and the lowest points are exceedingly high for this person. Well, that's gonna cause a lot of trouble, right? So and what I'm trying to say is, in every human being, we have this boundary, essentially. um we have this boundary. um I haven't given it much thought about happiness, but for sadness, if you are if you reach a certain threshold, um you're gonna kill yourself, essentially. Like, the pain is too much. Like, you just want to stop this pain. So what's the best way? Killing yourself, just ending the misery, like ending your existence, like this consciousness that you have. That um, it's a quite lonely thing if you really think about it. If you want to hear a voice, if you want to hear something, um, there's essentially nothing that you can kind of satisfy, except your own voice. So nowadays we have phones, right? We have social media that excruciatingly feeds on our loneliness, um, because it provides us with a lot of shit. As in, I think one of the biggest thing is being able to connect with someone live. But that's I'm as in, you can literally hear what what the other person is saying live time, like at the moment. But I'm going off here. But so what I'm trying to say is, even that still needs work. If you want to hear something, right? If you want to hear something, um, at any given moment, right? At any given moment, you only and that is, if you want to hear something that's out of someone's mind at any given moment, you only have your own voice, right? Because right now I'm talking, like I can speak, I'm talking to you guys what I'm thinking about. But if I want to hear someone else's voice, or if I want to hear someone else's opinions or anything, but just by some other being that's not me, I would have to find that person. I would have to contact that person. I would have to communicate with that person. But then in between there is that silence um, of time. So I'm talking about you. You are just essentially anguishedly alone at all times. You only have yourself to talk to. Um, okay, so I don't know how I arrived at this. See, this is what I mean. I didn't have a goal. I didn't have a goal when I was talking, so I went off topic. So what I was trying to say about, if your sadness, if your sadness goes over the threshold, the everyone's natural, and this is all very different because we are all very different. We all have very different thresholds for anything, you know. And when our sadness, God forbid, unfortunately, passes that threshold for just a little bit, something triggers inside us. Something triggers that makes us feel suicidal. Um, and the more you are exposed to that feeling, the more the shittier you're gonna feel. It's like being nauseous all the time, excruciatingly painful nausea that just increases as time goes on. There's nothing to save yourself from it, and you feel like there is just you feel like there are bugs, there like in your bloodstream. There are just endless amount of insect bugs, insect eggs, and they're just hatching, and you before you die a very painful death, you want to save yourself. It's like that cliche kind of, please don't let me turn in zombie movies, so the guy just shoots himself. um so what sorry, I'll try to make it very brief. So what I wanted to say was, and this this is my thoughts, and just don't, can't believe I'm saying this, right? Because I don't know who's gonna watch my video, you know. um what I'm trying to say, this is just my unfounded opinion. Um it's just my unfounded opinion. So if it sounds silly, just brush it off. The reason I've thought about why people um that uh, commit suicide. Um, for example, the people that survived from a suicide attempt. I remember reading this about jumpers from bridges. The moment they leaped off, the very second they leaped off, Um, they leaped when they were going down 90, 100 miles an hour. They were thinking about that mistake. Why did I jump? The regret, the remorse immediately comes in. But then what is tragic is people who shared that um, with us. They ended up killing themselves. So it wasn't just one attempt. They did another one, and unfortunately, they didn't make it out alive. And that got me to wonder, and it wasn't just one or 10 people. It was a lot of people a lot of survivors, from what I read, from my memory. And I was wondering, why is this? You know, I try to come up with my own kind of silly solution, and I've arrived at that. We all have this threshold in our heads, um, And once our feelings kind of go above that or below that, it's we need external help. Internally, we're just internally. I think it's far too gone, and we need external help. Um, and this is the results are, in my opinion, are going to vary by person. But we people need help with that. So that okay. So what I wanted to share was about that, like that whole image about the sign graph. So let me read what this gentleman says afterwards. So I'll read the preceding sentence since I rambled on for I think like I don't know 10 minutes. Um, I'll just read the whole thing from the beginning. The mad genius syndrome. The idea being that they push the boundaries of their work so far that normal life and eventually their sanity falls away. First, can you comment on this assumption that to achieve, for example, mathematical greatness, one might need to sacrifice his or her sanity? I realize that's straw man. Second, the G.K. Chesterton quote you cite, "Poets do not go mad, but chess players do," echoes something my evolution professor said at University of Illinois, where your dad taught. He was talking about something called the homeostatic envelope, loosely defined, I think, as the limits of one's normal experience from joy to depression. He drew a long rectangle and made a zigzag um, lie detector kind of line inside, with the ideal being that one is stay within this envelope, avoiding the lines exceeding it with too much joy or too much sadness. Now, this is the interesting part. I haven't thought of this. He says, anyway, the point he also made was that artists tend to stay more within the envelope because of what I'm presuming he meant as the natural vents and releases built into their work. I haven't. That's a very interesting. So what I mean is, so I also make music, right? Um, it's it's a way for me to vent a lot. It's a way for me to just. It was a way. It wasn't. So I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I'm sorry. It wasn't a way for me to vent. I didn't have that mind when I was playing the piano. I just had an idea, and I was when I have an idea, I would normally record it with my phone, by a voice recorder, and then I would try to transcribe all the melodies. They're relatively simple, so it's very easy. It's just the left hand that's a bitch to work with. But when I do that, sometimes this was about 2 years ago. Actually, I've been doing it since 2015, right? So almost a decade. It was like I started doing it in the summer of 2015, but um I wanted to talk about the yeah I wanted to talk about so the last time I actually sat down and actually played with the intention of just recording, making songs and recording songs. That was about 2 years ago, and it was a time for me when I so the I'm not trying to show off, right? I would record maybe 14 hours a day. I wouldn't even know, um, I wouldn't even know like 3 4 hours went by. It just goes like that. Um, that's how much I was um, into this activity. But then, well, not recently. This was about ever since my dog passed away in 2023. Um, something kind of just I wouldn't say something just turned off, but I just didn't want to, really make music. I still had a lot of ideas that I would record onto the recorder, but I just couldn't bring myself to kind of, kind of just record and record and record. Sometimes I would, but sometimes I wouldn't. And then um, the amount kind of just went down gradually. Um, and this has started happening last year. Is what I started getting a lot more aggravated. I would jump into conclusions. I would also like how I didn't have a general goal when I spoke, but then I would start the conversation with so much confidence, but it was more of a narcissistic. I was more of in a narcissistic state of mind because I was confident that what I was saying, what I was saying was, um, like, uh, in the end, it was the correct thing, and then what the other party was saying was just something that I can just brush off. It's a very immature, confined, and just not a just not a very not a very intelligent method of communication. But then I recently talked to a friend, and I realized that I was that yeah um I was just terrible at communicating. He's a very good friend. He speaks very well. He speaks with a goal, and he's able to state his points and then build upon it in a very coherent, understanding way. And that was something that I was I recognized, and that was something that I was severely lacking. So my main here we go. My main reason why I wanted to talk about this was maybe, just maybe, because I haven't been actively um, sitting down, actively, recording music. I haven't actively been, and this is another thing. I procrastinate. I talked about doing this a lot, but then I still haven't done it. It was about writing. I did it one day, and then it's been about 4 or 5 days since the last time I did it. Um, it was about writing short stories or just writing for 30 minutes, just typing anything. I think that's something that I really, really need to do. Just maybe and kind of see the changes after a month or two, or maybe 6 months. Um, whether or not it has any effects on my mood, it has any effect on my memory, on the ability to comprehend what I'm reading, the ability to catch on things that I may be missing in both music and in writing, in reading. That's a very good point. That's very interesting. The point he also made was that artists tend to stay more within the envelope because of what I'm presuming he meant as the natural vents and releases built into their work, whereas the cashiers of the world might not have those. He doesn't answer the question though. He didn't answer the question, I don't think. Bless you. Jesus. When you're writing a long non-fiction piece, do you try to understand the structure of the whole before you begin writing sentences and paragraphs in earnest? Oh my god. I thought my mic was off. I was gonna cry. Just everything that I said for the past like 20 minutes is gone. Something that was interesting. Something I would have liked to read if in the future. And this is also kind of the reason why I speak a lot sometimes. It's it's going to be entertaining hearing what I would have to say, 5-10 years down the line. It's gonna be an interesting thing. And this is, I try to be as honest as I can. I try to be as um like who the fuck gives a shit? You know what I mean? Like goddamn. right. I'll see you guys later.